Welcome back. Before the break, we looked at how lymph was produced as the blood plasma leaked out of the blood vessels to bathe the individual cells. Now, this diagram here summarizes the whole process. It's very simplistic. You need to understand that there isn't just one capillary bed. There are millions of capillary beds all the way through your body. Each of your fingertips has a whole series of capillary beds in it, further up in the palm of your hand, in your wrist, and so on. So your whole body is filled with these capillary beds. But this diagram really summarizes it very simply and makes it look like there's only one capillary bed. But the process is the same right throughout the body in all of those capillary beds. So what happens? Well, blood moves from the heart in arteries, and remember that blood is rich in oxygen, and the blood moves into a capillary bed. The blood vessels, or the arteries, split into smaller and smaller vessels called capillaries. The capillaries move in between all of the body cells that we can see here. Here's all the body cells, and the capillaries take the oxygen and nutrition as close as they can to these body cells. The fluid then is going to be formed. The formation of tissue fluid is formed when the fluid called blood plasma leaks out of the vessels. Most of that tissue fluid drains back into these lymph vessels. All right, so some tissue fluid goes back into the capillaries, but most of it moves into the lymph vessels. And as I mentioned to you earlier, this is a perfect opportunity for the blood plasma, which is now in the form of lymph, to be filtered. And that takes place at the lymph nodes. The lymph nodes collect all this fluid and filter it out for pathogens, bacteria, viruses, which are dealt with. The cells inside the lymph actually phagocytose or eat up those pathogens which could be causing a disease or a problem later on. This lymph, once it has passed through the filtration system, pours back into blood circulation, as I said, up here at your subclavian vein, where the lymph vessel just pours into the blood, and the blood system now just recirculates that highly filtered blood. The lymph nodes, as we've mentioned, act as filters. They are the sites where a very special kind of cell called a lymphocyte is formed. And these help in the production of antibodies and in the development of your immunity. And they serve as a defensive role against bacterial infection. Now, the lymph nodes are concentrated in certain places around your body. For example, at your ankles, in your groin, across your abdomen where your intestines are, under your arms, here in your neck. And you may have felt these lymph nodes just a few days before you started coming down with flu or with a cold. The lymph vessels under your arms or in your neck would have become painful to touch. You would have maybe even felt a little bit of swelling. Sometimes when you go to the doctor touches your glands here in your throat to see if they're swollen, because that's a sign that the lymph nodes are working very hard to deal with some kind of infection. The lymph vessels have to get this lymph back up your body, which is against the force of gravity. And of course, there's no heart to beat in the lymph vessels and in the lymphatic system. It's simply a drainage system. So the lymph actually relies on your own muscles pumping around your legs, for example, your arms, to push that lymph up
the lymph vessels back to your heart. And to prevent the lymph from moving a little bit up and then falling back and moving up and falling back, we have valves inside the lymph vessel that as the lymph is pumped, so the valve closes. Then the valve will open and more lymph can be pumped, and then the valve closes so that there's no backflow of lymph. The lymphatic system is going to drain away this excess tissue fluid, returning it to the blood. It's going to return any plasma proteins that might also have leaked out to the blood, and we know that it's going to remove bacteria and toxins from the body. And when you've studied the digestive system, you'll remember that special lymph vessels called lacteals transport fat in the blood. That's all about the lymph system today. Wait until after the break and we're going to be looking at plant hormones.